As the West carefully watches Russian moves in the Ukraine crisis, an Air Force general sounding a warning about Russian military maneuvers.
He says Russia is ramping up its air activity over the Pacific Ocean, even making claims a U.S. fighter jet intercepted a Russian aircraft over Guam. KCAL 9 political reporter Dave Bryan is live at USC with the story for us. Dave?
Well, Lena, Sylvia, we talked to a Russian expert here just a short while ago. He works in the Center for International Studies. He says Russian President Vladimir Putin is now sort of poking the U.S., testing to see what the response will be militarily, but primarily economically. But the news, nonetheless, must be very unsettling for many Californians.
General Carlisle.
When U.S. Air Force General Herbert Carlisle spoke this week in Washington, D.C., he delivered a chilling message for Californians. The Russians are coming.
What Russia is doing in Ukraine and Crimea has a direct effect on what's happening in Asia Pacific. Some of the things we've seen is their long-range aviation and the increase in that. Those areas depicted in green. They've come with their long-range aviation out to coast of California. They circumnavigated Guam.
General Carlisle said the number of long-range Russian airborne patrols in the Pacific region included a Tupolev TU-95 strategic bomber, which was intercepted over Guam by a U.S. F-15 fighter jet. And some of the Russian flights, he said, extended all the way to the California coastline. Professor Ben Graham at USC's Center for International Studies says he believes Russian leader Vladimir Putin is testing the United States. But he says it's a risky strategy.
If we have sort of some of these aggressive military sorties up the coast of California or something, the last thing you want is to actually have some 19-year-old Russian fighter pilots shoot down an American jet or something. You know, when you start playing these games, there's always the risk of someone going too far and provoking at a level you didn't intend.
The strategy may raise fears that Putin is determined to reestablish the old Soviet Union, which could spark another Cold War. But Professor Graham says that's unlikely because the Russia of 2014 is nowhere near as powerful as the Soviet Union was in the 1950s.
He's too weak to do that. I mean, the Cold War emerged between a very powerful Soviet Union and a powerful West, and now we have a powerful West and a not so powerful Russia. You know, there's an upper limit on how severe Putin can make this conflict before it sinks Russia economically.
And that's the vulnerability, the professor says, because Russia is vulnerable economically, and both Russia and the U.S. and the West are now testing one another to see how far they will go with economic sanctions and what impact that will have on Russia. We're live at USC. Dave Bryan, KCAL 9 News.